Well, hello and welcome, friends, to the Bradford National Bank podcast studio here in beautiful downtown Highland, Illinois. This is the Highland Dirt Podcast. Let's freaking go. I'm your host, Kurt Vonder. Haar. How is everybody tonight? You doing all right? I'm doing pretty good. We are 3 nights into the racing season at world famous Highland Speedway with super late models coming up on Saturday. Hello to all of our friends watching live via social media on Facebook, YouTube, and X. If you have questions for us during the podcast, please put them in the comments and we'll do our best to get to them. We got a great show for you again tonight. Joining us on the podcast will be our co-host Jacob Blumenstein. And with us in just a few minutes will be the FloRacing announcer, one of the most familiar voices in dirt racing, Ben Shelton. So the Highland Dirt Podcast is brought to you today by Jansen Auto Group. Hundreds of vehicles are available right now at gojansen.com with Jansen Ford Breeze, Jansen Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Carmi, and Jansen Chevrolet in Germantown. They have just the vehicle you're looking for. You can search their entire inventory at gojansen.com. That's gojansen.com. Jansen Auto Group is proud to support local dirt track racing and world famous Highland Speedway. Well, you might be asking yourself, what is the Highland Dirt Podcast? The Highland Dirt Podcast features dirt news plus talk, news, information, interviews from some of your favorite people and personalities in and around Highland Speedway. Well, you might be saying, what is Highland Speedway? Highland Speedway is a quarter-mile, bullring-style dirt track located in Highland, Illinois. We're 30 minutes east of St. Louis, Missouri. We've been racing in the dirt on Saturday nights since 1962. We race super late models, modifieds, pro mods, street stocks under the dirt car banner, plus micro sprints, 410 wing sprints, extreme outlaw series, 4 cylinders, vintage, kids mods, throwback sprints, all in a covered facility with seating for 3,000, located on the beautiful Madison County Fairgrounds. Did you get all that? Did you take notes? Well, now that you know a little bit more about the podcast, you got a brief history lesson on Highland Speedway. Let's bring in my co-host. He's competing in the Warrior division this year in the number 51. He watches more dirt streaming services than you do, and he's a big-time fan of Highland Speedway. It's Jacob Blumenstein. What's up, Jacob?
How we doing, Kurt?
Man, I'm doing good. Excited about the season. We had a solar eclipse this week. Did you watch it?
I did, yeah. We were out front of the dealership all hanging out in the darkness.
Yeah. I feel like in Highland we had like 99.3% coverage for the eclipse. It was kind of underwhelming, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I mean it was cool to go outside and see. I think this was better than the one in 2017, but I mean, it I was at work so I was going to check it out, but I was not going to take the day to go see it.
Yeah, traffic was crazy around here. Apparently the interstates were backed up. Route 4, 2-lane highway that goes north and south, was going along at like 20 miles per hour apparently. So that was pretty interesting. We're ramping up. We got World of Outlaws late models are back at Farmer City this weekend. Illini 300 or Illini 100. You going to watch that?
I'm going to try to watch Friday night. Saturday night I won't be. I will be at Highland Speedway.
That's right. We're 3 nights into the season at Highland Speedway. 5, I think, first-time winners already this season. How do you think things are going so far?
So far so good. I've only really been there one night, but I'm excited to get back. I think the new dirt's starting to hold up better. I looked at my race pass. I was camping this weekend, and in the features you could tell quite a people were passing. So passing is always a good thing.
Yeah, there was a lot of two-lane racing. I think by the end of the night, it was getting a little chewed up with the pro mods, the B mods. But Zeb Moak pulled off his second win in a row in the modifieds. In the pro modifieds, Cole Seigan from St. Jacob picked up his very first win. That was cool to see. In the street stocks, Terry McCann, Fat Man Terry McCann, picked up his first win of the season. He's won a lot of races at Highland. And then we had the throwback sprints. I know you weren't there to see it, but we had some pretty cool non-wing throwback sprints, and Trey Mailer from Oblong, Illinois was the winner there. So did you get to see any video of that?
I seen a little bit of video, not a whole lot. I was bummed didn't get to see that, and I did see quite a few people travel a long way to come to that, racers wise.
Yeah, it was cool to see. Huge tires. I mean, and a couple of them were getting after it pretty good. So some people after the race were saying, "Oh, you need to have the USAC Silver Crown cars there." We're starting to talk about that. So maybe that's something in the future we could look at. But hey, we've been keeping him waiting for a few minutes. Why don't we bring on our guest for tonight? What do you say?
Sounds great.
All right. He is a big name in the dirt racing world. If he shows up at your track, there must be a big purse on the line because we all watch him on FloRacing. He's one of the main voices at FloRacing. It's Ben Shelton. What's up, Ben?
Hey man, glad to have me on here tonight. I don't know that I can live up to anything that you've done to build me up in this, but we're gonna see what I can make up along the way.
That's awesome. Well, we talked a little bit earlier today. I know you had a bunch of meetings. You had a busy day at work. Tell us, what is your current role kind of with FloRacing? I know My Race Pass. What are you doing?
I'm a jack of all trades and master of none. Everybody probably knows me notably doing the FloRacing stuff and being on, those broadcasts. But the reality is I owned a PR and marketing company called MSR Mafia. And almost 3 years ago now, sold it to My Race Pass. And they bought it and they hired myself and my staff to come over and help them run their company. And so I've been with them this coming August. It'll be 3 years, which is crazy to think of that. And recently flew up to South Dakota and met with one of the owners, Josh Holt. And I got promoted. I'm vice president of sales for the company now. So I do that. And then over on the FloRacing front, I'm GM of Castro FloRacing Night in America, now presented by Kubota as of a couple of weeks ago. And then, I do all the TV stuff for Lucas. If it's going to be tape delayed for MAV TV, myself and Dustin Jarrett join the GOAT, James Essex, on those. And then partner on the Wild West Shootout with Chris Kearns and Michael Rigsby and Matt Curl. So I got my hands in a lot of different things. I don't know that I'm really good at any of them, but I do a little bit of everything. And man, just very thankful to get to work in racing.
Well, we're gonna maybe ask you, what do you do in your free time? But maybe there's not a lot of free time in your life. But
there's a little bit more than it used to be now. Though I'm getting a little bit older, and man, I've talked to you about it, Kurt. Just sometimes you got to start, pulling back a little bit, enjoying life a little bit more. So I probably have a little bit more free time these days than most. But yeah, it's about to get crazy again here pretty soon.
Well, we're gonna lob you some softball questions. We might have a couple of ones that'll let you rip at the end, but I'll let Jacob go first.
So Ben, a little bit about yourself. What was life like growing up for you? Where'd you go to school? Did you play any sports growing up?
And definitely not a sob story. I had an amazing deal. But if you kind of looked at the way I was brought up, I didn't have such an amazing family. Just to look at it, I'd probably be a statistic. Dad was never in my life. At 44 years old, I've never met him once. My mom was a young mom. She wasn't around a lot, but she had me when she was 18, but her brother and sister, my uncle and aunt, and her mom, really, they raised me, my grandmother. So I kind of grew up in this different kind of household. And my aunt's husband, he raced stock cars at the ditch in West Memphis, Riverside International Speedway. And my uncle, her brother, started helping with them some. And so I grew up at Riverside International Speedway every Saturday night. Memphis Motorsports Park came along in the late 80s, and we'd go there on Fridays. But I was never what you would call a big guy. So I believe it or not, though, all the way up to my freshman year, I was on the basketball team. Then, unfortunately, everybody else kept growing. I did not. I peaked at 5'5". But, man, my best memories 44 plus years later now is sitting in the grandstands with my family at the racetrack. And really, somebody called me a square growing up. Hell, I probably was. But the reality was, I think it's because I grew up at the racetrack and I spent time with them, and I got those ethics, those morals, and I learned a lot. There's probably some of that stuff I shouldn't have learned. But racing was in my blood from day one, but I never had any aspiration or dream that I could actually make a living in it.
So how'd you get your start in broadcasting?
Well, it's funny how things work. So there was no ifs, ands, or buts. I was going to go to college. Nobody from my family had ever gone to college. And my family's like, we will end you if you don't go to college. So University of Memphis, I don't know what I want to be. So my name's Benjamin Shelton. There's a kid at my high school. His name was John Benjamin Shelton. He'd signed up for all this engineering stuff. Well, they got the addresses messed up. So they start sending me engineering stuff in the mail. And I was like, well, what the hell? I'll try engineering. So go to University of Memphis. I'm studying civil engineering. I didn't get my first computer, boys and girls, this is how old I am. I didn't get my first computer till the second semester of my senior year of high school. Until then, I had a typewriter. You miss one word, you're retyping the whole thing. And so we got the internet and we start seeing this stuff. And my uncle that raised me, Uncle Gary, he's like, man, you should see about starting a website for stuff around Memphis. There's nothing about the Memphis area. And so it was called Zoom.com, not Zoom like you have now. I think it was XOOM.com. It was a free website builder. And yeah, I started building websites, playing around with that. And called MidSouthRacing.com. It's still there. There's going to be a new one coming out soon. But yeah, started that around 2000. And 2001, I built a website for a track down in Mississippi, Columbus Speedway. And it changed my life. Johnny Stokes, who's going to the National Dirt Late Model Hall of Fame this year. I can't wait. I get to induct him. He's not only one of my heroes growing up, but he gave me a lot of opportunities. The guy that was helping him run the track, Tim O'Brien, called me, build us a website. So I built him a website. Well, about 5 months into me doing that, same guy, Tim O'Brien, calls me one day and he's like, hey, you're coming down here for the sprint car race this Saturday. And I was like, yeah. And he goes, hey, we're going to have you announce. And I was like, no. And he goes, no. He goes, Columbus is about 2.5 hours from Memphis. He said, all the sprint cars are coming from Memphis. You grew up on these guys. Our announcer doesn't know them. You're going to come do it. And guys, I'm going to tell you, I got down there and scared does not begin to describe it. So I'd prepped, I'd done some stuff. So I get up there and start the night, I got the microphone and I'm like, nervous. And as the night goes on, I'm like, okay. So we get to the end of the night and they come and they hand me an envelope and I'm like, well, what is this? And they're like, well, this is, you get paid because you announced. And I was like, wait, I get in free. I get the best seat in the house and I get paid. And they're like, yeah. And that was June of 2001. And it changed my life, guys. I went on to graduate in engineering. I was a big nerd. I was valedictorian. I graduated in 2002. And I was an engineer up until 2009. And I started building a racing business on the side, what became MSR Mafia. And that was about the time the world hit a big economic slump. I wasn't in danger of losing my job, but had an amazing wife. And she was like, why don't you give the racing thing a try? And I had 35 clients at the time I did websites for. I announced a little bit and, exploded. When I sold my business in 21 to my race pass, I think I had right at 190 clients here in the States and Canada and Australia. And I've had amazing people give me amazing opportunities along the way. I'd be so naive to act like I did all this on my own. I had some really good opportunities that worked out for me.
So how did you meet Rigsby, D-Suave, Dustin Jarrett, and what were the early days of Dirt on Dirt like?
So here's the funny thing about Rigsby. So Rigsby starting, I guess it would have been like 2009. And Comp Cams, Chris Douglas, who's now COO of Edelbrock Group that bought Comp Cams, still a great friend of mine. He threw a lot of work my way when I went full-time in racing. And, man, if not for him and the work that Comp Cams gave me, I probably wouldn't have made it. And anyway, he calls me one day and he goes, hey, man, have you heard about this thing? And Rigsby gives me so much crap. This is the truth, and I'll own it. He goes, you heard about this thing called Dirt on Dirt that's getting started up? And I'm like, yeah. He goes, what do you think? I'm like, it will never make it. I was like, people aren't going to pay for this. They're going to be sharing their logins. And so anyway, Chris is like, yeah, I don't know. I think we're going to sponsor them a little bit. And I was like, you can. It's not going to make it a year or two. Well, it did. And so fast forward like 2000 – man, I want to say like 13 or 14, I met Rigsby at the Show Me 100. No, it would have been earlier than that. It would have been, man, my years are getting away from me, guys. I'm getting old. It would have been somewhere around 09, 10, and I met Rigsby there, and we just hit it off, dude. And I'd met Todd Turner, who was his, Todd's the GOAT of journalism and dirt racing. I'd met Todd previously at Memphis Motorsports Park. He worked for National Dirt Digest, worked with Brian McLeod. And so I got to meet Rigsby. Man, we just hit it off. And I can't explain it. And, since that day, we've become best friends. And then Dustin Jarrett, I was getting my start, and I randomly met Dustin Jarrett. So Dustin's a race chaser, as you guys probably know. He's been to 300, 400 some odd tracks. I tell him he's a loser. But no, he loves racing. He finds ways to go. And I met him. I was at Tennessee National Raceway in Hohenwald, Tennessee. I announced a race. I think Anthony Burroughs won that night, who's Ricky Thornton Jr.'s crew chief, ironically. And Dustin Jarrett comes up to the tower. He's like, hey, man, I just want to introduce myself. I'm Dustin Jarrett. That was the first time we met. And then DJ and I just kind of bounced in and out of each other's lives a lot until about 2014, 15. And we started working together more. And now, him and, Dustin Jarrett, Michael Rigsby, dude, they're the two best friends anybody could ever have. And, all you need to know is we work together. but we also go on vacations and stuff together. Our wives get along, and it's just a respect. It's probably a disease. We're probably so eat up with it that nobody else will put up with us. But yeah, and then, we met Derek. I'll never, real quick, D-Swab, and D-Swab's taking a different direction in life, man. He's a State Farm agent now. And I'll never forget Michael telling me we were at Silver Dollar Nationals, like 2016, 17. He's like, we got this new intern. He goes, this kid is burnt. I can't wait for you to meet him. He goes, I've never seen anything like him. He's out there. And then at that time, Derek had the long hair. He weighed about 40 pounds more than he does now. And I was like, this kid's never going to make it. But he did. And man, we became a family. We fought over the years and those guys. But, we've all had downtimes in life. We all have it. Those dudes have been there for me every single time. And I'm just very grateful that we all cross paths.
That's pretty cool. I think we see that dynamic when you do the ride home during the Florida and Georgia Speed Weeks. Those are always entertaining.
They are. And, it's funny because we have all these produced things we've done over the year, from Dirt on Dirt to Flow. We put hours, some of these things, hundreds of hours of just time, manpower and planning and all this money, just stupid budgets. Nothing is more popular than the drive home that started as a joke. When you're going to Speed Weeks, you're like, well, you got like a little dash cam. And people always like, we wonder what you guys talk about. We're like, we'll just do it. And we're like, it's going to be a goof. Nobody's going to give a damn. Well, they did. And the numbers that thing gets, it's unbelievable. In fact, me and Rigsby fought this year about it. We've had a long-standing agreement, no sponsorships. It stays organic. And the Nippy 50 that I did, Dustin Jarrett and I just did for Jeff Hoker up at Makokata, Rigsby let him sponsor it this year. But so we joke, all this planning, all this thought, us just being, dummies, riding home, saying the same stupid stuff we always say. Everybody watches it, and I think that's really, I think it kind of changed the game too, because it showed people at the end of the day, we are big race fans. We're just really big racing nerds that somehow, some way made our way into the industry.
And then sometimes, your wife makes an appearance from the back seat and gives her opinion. And I don't think you've gotten pulled over yet, have you?
No, we haven't died yet. We've been Rigsby's has on the wrong side of the road. We've been stuck on railroad tracks. We've definitely run red lights. And so it's kind of a running joke / cruel prophecy that one day, America's going to watch us live meet our untimely ends one way or another. So, we have not been pulled over. We've been in drive-thrus that were closed when we pulled up that reopened. We've talked to homeless people. We've talked to, it's, the drive home's legendary. I don't know what the future of it looks like. Speed Weeks is kind of in limbo. There's a lot of things changing in our sport. So we going into this year, we just knew that a lot of things could change. And so we gave it 1,000,000%. We're like, if we're going to go out, we're going out on top. And that was why that last night, man, I kind of broke down a little bit because it was just emotional. It could have been an end of an era, maybe not. We don't know yet, but man, so many memories. And that's the thing, and I'll say that between the Wild West Shootout and Speed Weeks, we spend 40 out of 48 days together to start the year. Wow. And that's a big part of your life, and you get through a lot of emotions, and you get homesick, and you get down. And life on the road is it's a lot harder than a lot of people think it is. I'm thankful for it, but as I'm getting older, it's like, man, is that juice worth that squeeze?
It gets harder. You had to take Rigsby. You had to take somebody to the hospital, right? This last trip.
Rigsby woke us up. Well, Derek woke me up. About 4:30 one morning. We were at East Bay. We're at the Tampa house, and he's like, Ben, you gotta come. I think Rigsby's dying. So I was like, all right. So we get in there, and Rigsby's in more pain than any human being's ever been in that I've seen. And he ended up with kidney stones. There was one point I'd offered the doctor $1,000 to put him down, and they were like, we don't do that here. It was so I literally went through kidney stones together, we got him through that, and thank God he passed them. So it was this year's Speed Weeks, man, from that to being on Bubba the Love Sponge show with Tony Stewart to getting rained out and going to see Pantera. Like this year's Speed Weeks was like Hangover 5, all the stuff. Dustin Jarrett was literally, we had already scheduled his viewing and his cremation. He was as sick as any human you've ever seen for like 8 days. To the point, Tim Truex from Loud Pedal, that's part of our team that we love, literally looked at him and he goes, be an adult, get better. So, he was completely isolated because he had this weird viral infection. Man, we've as we're getting older, it happens, right? It happens.
Yeah, You guys went through it, and yeah, you got on Bubba the Love Sponge, big, shock jock down there in Florida.
Yep.
Now his son, Tyler Clem, is that his son that races a late model?
That is his son. I don't know they speak a whole lot these days, but yeah, that is his son. Tyler's mom is married to Augie Bertram, Big Frog Motorsports.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
that's Tyler's de facto stepdad. So yeah, but yeah, that's that is, and Tyler's having a heck of a year, man. That kid's a will, man. Sprint cars, the late models, the mods, he can drive everything.
Yeah, he was running part of the Summer Nationals at the beginning last year, I know. So have you ever been behind the wheel?
I haven't. I've done Johnny Stokes again, took me for a ride along at Columbus one time, and I realized after about half a lap, there's a reason I'm on the side of the catch fence I'm on.
Yep.
And then he took me in a late model around Columbus Speedway. Wayne Brooks, Hall of Famer in the late model world, took me around, works at Shaw Race Cars, took me around Batesville Motor Speedway in a modified. That was scarier than the late model because you're out there on that skinny tire and it feels like you have no control. And then, I got to do it right along at Fairbury Speedway in a late model. And every time I go out there, what always crosses my mind is how the hell do these guys do this? Because you sit in the stands, the racetrack looks like it's like it's 5 car widths wide, and you get out there and you're like, how do they even do the pace lap side by side? How's this even a thing? So I'm definitely on the side of the fence I'm on. I've had some offers to get in the wheel of a sprint car, and I choose life, guys. I choose life.
Yep, smart decision. I'm in your boat there. Hey, let's change gears just a little bit. I know you live down in the Memphis area, right? One of the hubs of live music. We always see you posting about enjoying, live music, concerts. Tell us about kind of your musical tastes and maybe some of the concerts you've been to lately.
My tastes get bigger and bigger as we go along. I mean, these days I love everything, and I probably got to attribute my wife to it. She's really broadened my horizons. My late night, so hard rock is my de facto. It's the thing I love the most. In fact, when we were at Speed Weeks, got rained out. I was so sad because while I was at Speed Weeks working, Pantera was going to be in Memphis. We get rained out. It just happens to be the night we're in Tampa, the night they're in Tampa. And I got to go see them and Lamb of God. That was awesome. The night before, I'd seen Seven Dust and Static X there at the Hard Rock in Tampa. So I like hard rock. That's kind of my happy place. A lot of people think that it's angry music. And actually, that's my wife always jokes. She's like, you just smile the whole time you're listening to it. I love Slipknot. I love all that stuff. But I'm also I'm going to see Hart in Memphis. They're coming through on their tour, and I love classic rock. My uncle Gary, he's the reason, man. I can't hear a Boston song without going back to like 6-year-old Ben Shelton riding to Riverside Speedway on a Saturday night, listening to Peace of Mind and More Than a Feeling, and that. But also my guilty pleasure is if I'm late night and I'm driving home, I got Sirius XM in all my vehicles. Hip Hop Nation. I love me some Drake.
There we go.
I like me some City Girls. I like Rick Ross, So people are like, okay, how do you make this connection? Hip hop music makes me laugh. And we got a lot of big rappers from Memphis, Moneybagg Yo, sometimes we don't treat our guys. We Young Dolph, one of our rappers, got, unfortunately his life was taken in Memphis a few years ago. So we've got a lot of Memphis talent, and I like hip hop, man. As I get older, my horizons get bigger, and maybe in directions that people wouldn't expect.
Yeah, we're about the same age, so we came up in the golden era of hip hop. I mean, with all the hip hop artists, some of them seem to be not doing so well in the news lately, but we won't go
happens.
there. What's maybe a band that you like right now that none of us have heard of?
Oh man, it's probably all relative. I'm going next week. We're going to Birmingham. I mean, nothing more that you would know. But there's a band out of Ocala, Florida, Wage War, that is really kind of making their way up, and they're opening up for them. Love them. I love some guys that have kind of been under the radar forever. I love like a Treyu. I love A Day to Remember. I like a lot of those guys that are going to perpetually play clubs. Seven Dust. That's why they're always going to be number one in my heart. And LeJean, I've met him many times, and he hits me about right here. And I love a guy shorter than me. So yeah, man, I like a bit of everything. I'm probably not the most mainstream guy. I like a lot of the off the wall stuff. Head PE, they've been around forever, and they come through Memphis and play these tiny clubs. And Head PE is one of my all-time favorites. I was just at the gym tonight rocking out. I was on a Head PE playlist tonight.
No, it's cool. It's cool to see your posts about the bands, and you look like a T-shirt guy. I know we sent you a Highland Speedway T-shirt, but you're
still got it.
Yep, you seem like you're a graphic tee guy. So no, that's great. It was great to hear about. It's great to see your live music and those interests.
I love entertainment. And that's what COVID taught me. If COVID taught me anything, is if you love something, when it comes back, don't ever take it for granted. So if we remotely love a concert and it comes to Memphis, we go see it. We support live music because I think that was the hardest part. Yeah, because we got to race during COVID. I know a lot of fans didn't get to go. We got to race. I never want to do fanless events again. But we lost live music for like a year and a half, and man, it was like my life was incomplete.
Yep.
So Ben, is Raise Hell one of your top 3 Head P songs?
I like that. I'm a big. Oh man, I love that you brought that to the table. Renegade is one of my all-time favorites. I mean, you got to go old school like Bartender. I mean, anytime you see them, I just love they bring the energy, and they don't care if there's 10 people there or 10,000. We got to see Chris Jericho's band Fozzy earlier this year, and he said something in an interview a few years ago that I bring to all the motorsports events I do because you guys have been there. It's a lot easier vibe. It's a lot easier to bring the show when you're at Eldora and there's 30,000 people. You go to a show where maybe the weather's hurt the event, different things. There's a couple hundred. It's hard. And Chris Jericho said, we perform the same every night, whether it's 10 people or 10,000 there. And I took that to heart. I was like, I love that. And, we're all in the entertainment industry. And those 10 people that paid to get in, if there's only 10 there, they still spent their hard-earned money. They deserve to be informed, entertained, and get a good show. And that's something that I really have taken with me.
So for my question, my wife actually helped me last night. I was sitting on the couch, and I always try to get her involved. She goes to the races all the time. She's supportive of the podcast, so I asked her opinion on questions. So this was her question. So you've done countless interviews. Is there one interview you remember where things were going south, where you wanted to pull the microphone away, but you had to see the interview through?
I don't know that I've had that horror story. I told somebody recently in an interview, they were like, is there anybody you dreaded interviewing early on? So God rest his soul, Rick Eshelman, leaves the World of Outlaws like 2012 mid-season. So 12, 13, 14, I think it was. I did the World of Outlaws. And that's when Darrell Lanigan was on a tear. He scared the hell out of me. Like, Lanigan just intimidated me so bad. He's more, and it's funny now because we joke and laugh, but he was dry. And I can remember, like, in the middle of interviews, I'd be at the end, and I'd be like, and tonight's second place finisher, Darrell, before I get to finish it out, he's gone. He's walked out of camera. And I'm like, and so, no, man, I really don't think, because here's the deal. I've had some people that, quote unquote, maybe get sideways with me in an interview, and then later they come back and apologize. And I'm like, no, dude, that's what I love about dirt track racing. Largely, there's some exceptions, but I love the honesty. I love the moment. I love the emotion. And I tell people all the time, I'm like, never apologize to me if you were being honest. You don't owe me anything. If you're being honest and that's what you wanted to say, then I'm good with it. I don't think, I've had a few sound bites heard around the world. You can look from Brian Burkhalter 1 year at the Silver Dollar Nationals where he indicated what sexual action Jared Landers might be. There was a year where Bub McCool wins a big race down at the Gumbo Nationals in Greenville, and I'm trying to interview him, and he is going just nuclear on the race director because the race director said something during the race he didn't want. Like, he called me and apologized later. I was like, hey, man, you're being you. I started a riot on the front straightaway at Riverside International Speedway one time between Sammy Swindell and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. That's on YouTube. I didn't mean to. But, yeah, man, I've had some memorable moments. But none where I just felt like I wanted to get out of there. I've been grateful for all the moments I've had, good, bad, and different.
Talk about a race that's really, next door to us, the Dome.
There's nothing like the Dome. There's nothing more stressful than the Dome, and I've done the Sprint Car Million, which was, for a lot of people, they didn't see that come. They didn't see a late model guy doing that, but they didn't know I grew up on sprint cars, man. That's where I cut my teeth. When I went full-time in announcing, I was doing the ASCS, with Emmett Hahn and Tommy Estes. And so that stuff's stressful, but there's nothing like the Dome. And the reason is that the Dome, it's organized chaos. And, I got a producer in one ear. I've got 4 announcers in the other, and then I've got a radio where production. Now we have production in our headset, so production will talk over everything. And then there's times where we have another radio from the Pyro guy, my buddy Randy Bass, that lives here in Memphis, that owns the Pyro company that does like Eldora and the Dome and a bunch of the basketball teams, and we're having to coordinate all that. And then, God forbid, you tear the fence down. Well, now you got to fill 20 minutes. And that's why people give us a hard time. Me and Dustin Jarrett, we never go out at the Dome. This year on Thursday night, we went out for a little bit just because we got done early. But you got to be 100% in because it's just the focus there, and you got to save your voice. But dude, when it all comes together and that crowd erupts, and I've had some of the most stressful, terrified moments where I didn't know what to do next, to some of the most fulfilling, to probably the only time I've really ever cried on the air is, when Tyler Herb tells us that his dad died when he got there. And the Herb family, when I started my company, I told you I had over 190 customers. When I sell that deal, they're number 7. They're the people that help me live my dreams. And yeah, they've butted heads with people, but they've always been there for me. And I just remember just choked up throwing it to break. So there's been so many moments at the Dome, and what Cody Summer and the chance he's taken there, and the fact very few people believed in him, that one's special. And I'm always going to be – I have to prep for that event more than any other. I'm so stressed leading in. I'm so exhausted afterwards. But, man, I'm grateful that I've got to be a part of that ride.
What's that Saturday look like as far as your day? What time does it start? What time are you at the track? What time do you finally get done?
Saturday's the tough one, man, because we start doing run through at 10:30 a.m. on intros because we have the locked in intros. So we've got all these cues we've got to hit. We've got to time them with the pyro. We got all these different things. People, we know the 6 that are locked in. 6, 8, however many. Yep. We know how many are locked in. So they have their videos made. Our production crew stayed up all night making their videos, and we run through those 6 or 8 intros probably 8 to 10 times, Dustin Jarrett and myself, just trying to get them right, to get the timing. That's at 10:30. At 11, we do that 10:30 to 11. Hopefully at 11 we're done. Then we got crew call. We go through with everything. Then we go talk to the pyro guys one more time. Then honestly, Saturday's probably in some ways is the easiest day because Thursday, Friday are so crammed finishing up your notes. Saturday's the only day I get to walk around the pits and talk to people and shake hands and kiss babies and do the part of the sport I love. I love the people, man. The social, getting to meet the people that allow us to live our dreams. That's everything. And and then Saturday at about 2:15, that's when it's time to get up to the booth because we're going live at 2:30. And then from there to the end, it's all blur. I mean, everything is so much preparation. It's all blur from there.
Yeah, that's got to be a marathon, and just talking that entire time. I mean, I was there on Saturday night, and you were so nice to, we got with the reporter, we got some time on the Jumbotron to plug Highland Speedway. So, I thank you for that again. But man, I just thought, man, you're talking constantly. Like that's just rough.
It's a lot, but man, we got such a great team. And that's the thing in all this, when I get to do that, and myself, but then you got Dustin Jarrett, and we've added Jerry Van Sickle to help us with the mods, and then you got Blake Anderson, you got Trenton Berry, and then we literally, our camera people, we already got one Hall of Famer on the crew. There's a lot of other Hall of Famers, and that's what people don't see. When we have a production meeting, there's 20 plus people, and if any of them don't do their job, we can't do our job. So really, we've got it easier than everybody. All we got to do is talk. Well, I'm 5'0". All I got going for me is I can talk. But we want to make it entertaining, and we got to make it entertaining for the people that are there and at home. And we catch up, man. The world. I'll say this: Ben Shelton now versus myself. Man, even a couple years ago, my skin is so thick, and people that are happy don't talk. People that are miserable want you to hear their voice, and I've just got to the point I don't listen to it. I know at the end of the day, if I've done the best I am capable of doing, or if I've melded in, and I rarely do I meld it in, but there's times where I just don't prepare enough. And if I've done all that, man, you can say whatever you want. I'm okay with that. Not everybody's gonna be a fan of me. I get that. That's okay. They used to eat me alive, reading that stuff. And, and that's probably my best advice to anybody, not just in the media, but young drivers is, if you're giving your best, if it's the best version of you, nobody else can tell you any different.
Yep. Amen to that. Hey, last year you had a broken down part in your RV. I think that's what prevented you from coming to Highland Speedway for the first time, Ben Shelton. But you posted some pictures of your new RV. Pretty freaking sweet ride. Tell us about the RV. What are your plans for it? Might we see it pull into Highland sometime this year? So tell us a little bit about the RV life.
Yeah, I bought a new one. Boy, that RV brought the haters out. That's what I always laugh the most at. This is why Flo's, canceling this and that. And I'm like, hey, you dummy. I'm not even a Flo employee. I do a lot. I work a lot. So anyway, I bought that.
You're like
man,
Kenny Wallace. Kenny Wallace, you got that flow money. Got that flow money.
Yeah, the Flo money. They came. Those haters came out in full force. But anyway, yeah, we just bought it. It's my uncle's getting close to retirement, and he would take me camping as a kid. And we had this like little rinky-dink pop-up camper. We thought we were rich. And we'd see people pulling motorhomes like that, and he's like, "Man, what does this guy do for a living?" And I'd love to have one of those one day. Well, we had an older motorhome, and he's getting closer to retirement, and him and his wife want to be able to go cross country. And look, my wife and I are going to use that a lot, but I bought that as much for Uncle Gary as I did anybody. I'm not who I am today. I am not here if he didn't do the job that my dad didn't want to do. If he didn't, he's only 17 years older than me, but he did that. And so he uses it. He loves it. And it's perfect because I'm a civil engineer, not a mechanical. I just replaced the speaker in our old beater car. And I was so proud for I came on the air tonight. I have no ability. So he does all the maintenance on it. But no, as far as me, we're going to be taking to more races. My wife, pseudo retired back in July of last year. And she's helping me in a lot of the things that I do with my different endeavors. Rigsby's got her on retainer. She helps with everything from NIL stuff for colleges to Fairbury to Wild West Shootout. And I wanted her to be able to go more. And my puppy dog's laying under my chair back here. I like her to be able to go. So yeah, a lot of these races this year, we're going to take the motor home, and so my family can go with me, and it makes it more bearable being on the road. My wife, that's the thing. And I know you guys know it, you're around racing. Our families are the ones that sacrifice the most for racing. And, I've missed anniversaries. My wife has gone to so many weddings by herself. Thank God, not mine. Birthday parties, all these things. And so the time come I wanted her to be able to enjoy her life more. So yeah, so she's going to travel with me more, and we're going to use it. But on the flip side, when you're really busy and you're bouncing between all these tracks, sometimes that doesn't make sense. It's easier to fly up there and fly in and out. So I'm not taking it to all the events, but we are taking it to more. We're actually taking this Saturday because I'm off, and we're going to go around to a bunch of campgrounds in a couple hours of Memphis and scout out some good places to go camping, just trying to get into my next phase of life.
Yep. Jacob, I'm going to call a little audible and skip around here a little bit because he answered some of our questions.
Go for it.
How about, no, it's great, Ben. When you get to a city for a race, what are the first 2 or 3 things you have to do besides check into the Best Western?
Honestly, man, I've got it down to a fine art now. I like to think, although travel has changed, logistics have changed. You can't fly in day of anymore. I was about to throw up blood last year because the way logistics works, I couldn't get into the Sprint Car Million till that morning, and I was terrified I was going to get a flight delayed. So now you fly in the night before, and then you hope like hell you get out the day you're supposed to. It's just that's hard. So really now I get in and I try to get to the hotel. I set up a workstation. I got a portable monitor I take with me because again I got a lot of commitments to my race pass. These guys, we have a lot of clients. We got a lot of things we're doing. So really, to answer your thing, man, I land somewhere. If I fly in, I get my rental car and I head to the hotel, get set up, get a night's sleep. I try to get up the next morning. Hopefully, got a hotel with a decent gym. Try to work out, and it's not about trying to be some buff dude. It's just my therapy. That's how I mentally stay healthy. So get up and do that. Get a little coffee, maybe grab a few eggs, and then hit the ground running. But now my buddy Dustin Jarrett, he is the foodie of foodies. He's going to find the coffee shop. He's going to find the top 10 on Yelp. He's going to have it all laid out. My 2.5 days with him in Makokata, I think I gained 8 pounds because we hit every Yelp location and everything was delicious. So he's actually what you call an enabler.
That's funny. I think that kind of leads into Jacob's next question. He was going to ask you about some tracks.
Yeah. So you've been to about all the big tracks. So for your common race fan, what's 3 tracks they need to go to and why?
So one of my all-time favorite tracks, probably a little bit harder for most to get to, and I was announcing for ASCS, Placerville Speedway out in California. Brad Sweet actually, I believe, owns it now. I'm talking Highland small, maybe tighter. One of the smallest tracks I've ever been to. And dude, sprint cars ran like a big dog on it. I mean, it was amazing. I loved it. We had 50-something sprint cars both nights. They're under curfew. Then they ran sprints. We were done the first night at 9:01, the second night at 8:53. It was the happiest thing I've ever done. I love Eagle, Nebraska. Glad to see Lucas is going there this year. You're going to see a pattern here. I like the bull rings because I grew up on bull rings. And then, people can go, oh, it's easy to be a homer or whatever. Fairbury special, dude. I'm 7.5 hours from Fairbury. Fairbury largely launched my career. A lot of people think I'm from Illinois because of the rest of that contingent. Fairbury's just special. Most towns don't want their racetrack. They want to get rid of them. Fairbury goes above and beyond to help their racetrack thrive. The business is everybody. I won't name names. They're only one of two towns in America that a national chain fast food restaurant came in and they tried to bully the local business. The locals didn't support them and they had to close. Only twice it's ever happened. Fairbury's one of them. My wife actually wants us to buy a house in Fairbury, and I'm trying to explain to her the 3 times a year we go there, it would not, the numbers don't add up. But just Fairbury. If we had more Fairburys and more towns that love their track like that, our sport would be in a better place.
Yeah. What are some reasons you think that makes Fairbury so special? You mentioned the people. What else?
The people and the thing, back to the people, you go there and it's no big secret. You guys see it. Dirt track racing, we got a problem. The average age of the average race fan is Fairbury. I'll argue is 20 years average age younger than anybody else. It's the cool thing for kids to do in that region. And I give Matt Curl all the time, great friend of mine. I'm like, what's the secret, man? I need this other places. So, it's cool. You got all generations there. The racing's great. I mean, yeah, they had some turds? Yeah, we all have. It's dirt, man. It's going to happen. But they produce great shows. They care. They're always putting back in. And then I think what's cool is Matt gets out there, and you guys are doing the same thing at Highland. He gets out there, Matt Curl, and all the local businesses, he gets them behind it, and they sponsor all kinds of stuff. The company that bought the scoreboard called me today for a price on a website, Livingston Stone Company. They get behind it. And I just think I kind of compare Illinois and, obviously where you guys are at in that whole state, the way the late model and the modified racing is the way the sprint cars are when you get over to Pennsylvania. It's just a way of life. And Fairbury's they've just done it. They've got a history and it hasn't always been perfect, but they persevered. And I think that's what shows. And so, yeah, as one of my best friends, Michael Rigsby, is he, part owner of that? Is he from there? Yeah. But that's not what it's about. My uncle doesn't get to take off work very often. My uncle takes off 3 days every year to go to the PDC with us just because it brings back memories of when you're a kid and the reason you fell in love with racing.
Yep. This guy right here, Jacob, he takes off work almost every year to go to the PDC. I've been to Fairbury twice, not for the PDC, but yeah, it's definitely a special place. And hey, imitation's the highest form of flattery. We look at what they're doing up there and go, man, we're trying to repeat some of that down here. It is. Excuse me, Ben, on the announcing side, you talked a little bit about it, but I'm always impressed how you're able to rattle off all the sponsors so quickly and efficiently. Like, talk about, is there a tool that you use? Do you have a system? Do you have a spreadsheet that allows you to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a deal that I make that a lot of, I think, announcers have variations. I have an Excel spreadsheet, a workbook, and one of the workbooks in there is all the driver information, all in rows, and then the other I have vertical and horizontal lookups. The engineering paid off. That coding I had to get in engineering, I used to make a spreadsheet to announce, and so I use that. And then, yeah, I mean, that's my cheat sheet. A lot of that stuff after a while, repetition, it's like anything. It's like singing your favorite song, you remember. But that's my cheat sheet. So I use that. Where it gets more complicated is when you're pit reporting. You don't have a spreadsheet down there. So I've come up with, people have looked at my notes that I make down there, and they're like, these hieroglyphics make no sense. I'm like, man, I got 8.5 and 11 pieces of paper. I got to put stuff on. That's where it comes. And then honestly, I told somebody recently, they asked for advice on announcing. I was like, well, there's a lot better people asked than me, but 99% of my announcing notes are ready to rock before I leave the house. I get an idea who's coming. I reach out via social media, text, emails, websites, the whole 9 yards, to the point I show up. That last 1% comes from going around, finding out whose dog had puppies this week, whose mama isn't feeling good, getting those little storylines where you can share with the fans and make them feel like they're there if they can't be, stuff that they might not get otherwise.
Yep. Do you feel like sometimes, you get to know these drivers, you get to be friends with them. Sometimes you have to find you're riding a fine line when you're reporting and maybe reporting on some of this stuff that might be a little controversial, the tire issue, things like that. Yeah. How do you approach that?
My deal, as long as you're giving fair and equal attention to all sides, that's all you can do. And, I've had people tell me before, I do consecutive interviews to get my butt chewed in both of them because of the questions I asked, but I asked both people the same questions. And, people that know me, that are inner circles, so to speak, they know I'm going to give them the hardest time. there are no free passes. But I'm not a shock jock. I'm not in for shock journalism. I'm not going to go be sensational for the sake of being sensational. I'm going to ask the questions that I think are the questions that need to be asked. I'm not gonna pull punches, but I'm also not gonna put somebody in a spot where I set them up to give an answer that they can't win no matter what they say. And right or wrong, that's who I am. Some people can say, oh, you give some softball questions sometimes. I give the best questions that I feel like are the most professional to get the answers that are most applicable. And then, if there's somebody that wants to go in there and, and I love Howard Stern, if they want to be the Howard Stern of dirt track racing, I'm not that guy. That's not who I'm trying to be.
What about when when you have to walk up to a driver that just pulled off the track? He maybe wrecked his car. You're walking up to interview him. I mean, how do you approach that?
It's a live wire. You know what you're getting into, and people have different opinions to be like, oh, you shouldn't talk to him. I disagree. It's about the energy of our sport. It's about the entertainment value. I feel like I'm not doing my job. Now, if I can tell that they're rattled or it's knocked the wind out of them, then no, I'm not going to be like, hey, Jason Fager, if you could catch your breath for a second, I'll ask you what happened. No, but I'm going to get in there. That's just who I am, for better or for worse. I'm going to get in there. Hey, what happened?
What comes to mind is when Tyler Carpenter, I think, and was it RTJ or Devin Moran got together last year or 2 years ago at the Dome. And I think, there was
Blake Anderson jumped right in there. Blake got the answer, from RTJ. And the next day, Special Olympics got some donations from Ricky Thornton Jr. So maybe it worked out. I don't know, No, I mean, there is. I know that some people go, you got to let them cool down. But there's a lot of people that are upset when you don't. So it's a fine line. I can see both sides of it. For me, if they're not injured, and I will ask, I won't straight put the microphone. I'll walk up and I'll be like, hey, can I ask you what happened?
Yep. Hey, are there some tracks that are set up better than others for announcing? Are there some that you can think of that have a really bad setup? Like, what's the Dome like? Is that a really good setup at the Dome?
Well, the Dome is cake. I mean, it's amazing. Royal Jones track out there, Vado Speedway Park out there in Vado, New Mexico, where the Wild West Shootout, it totally ruins you because it's like an NFL press box. Wow. And then it helps that the guy that runs the scoreboard, he's the manager of this unbelievable Mexican restaurant called La Posta, and he caters the press box every night. You talk about gaining weight in January. So that's fantastic. I love Fairbury, but man, when you're in the box, you and Mike Norris, you're like this. There's not a lot of room. I just did a first at Makokata Speedway. We knew we had weather coming in one night. We were going to be racing that. We got a lot of expensive equipment now at these events. They have an open air 10 by 10 tower in the infield, like, maybe like Belclair, and Dustin Jarrett and I did the entire event from the production trailer. We had, we actually, you would have never known it. We had giant monitors. We had everything. We sat in there and we did the entire event. I never thought I would do that, but there we were. We had amazing camera people. They caught everything, and we were able to do it from the trailer. So, it varies. We don't need much to work with. Tyler County, I used to dread going to in West Virginia, and they redid their press box in amazing. Obviously, Eldora's cake. Charlotte, honestly, as nice as it is one of the toughest places to announce because it's literally like a 8-foot wide room. It's long, and you literally got to rotate announcers in and out. When I was there, me and Johnny Gibson and Shane Andrews, we'd have to rotate in and out. You can only have like one person down there. It all varies. If you can just give me a little bit of room, and admittedly now with all the equipment we have, it's going to sound diva. I just want to be inside, man. It's hard to be outside with the equipment we've got. And then there's so many things we're doing. We have to hear producers. We got to hear the people we're working with. It's just easier to be inside a booth.
And maybe a little airflow going through the booth. And do you like to be in the booth with the track crew, the track officials, so you can hear what's going on there?
For Castrol, for sure, because I wear a lot of hats. Dustin Jarrett and I announce those events, but I'm GM. And so at the end of the night, if somebody's going to get their butt chewed if it goes sideways, it all lands with me. And I have an amazing staff with Ray Cook and Kelly Carlton and Brad Hockaday. We have a tiny staff. Our staff is 1/3 the size of any national tour. We go in and do a national tour caliber show, but our guys bust their butts. I like being in there because I need clarification, or if things are going sideways, I like to, and that's the beauty of Dustin Jarrett. I couldn't ask for a better broadcast partner. He's freaking amazing. And there's times I just look at him and I'm like, you take it. And I might be off headset for 10 minutes trying to untangle. Maybe we had a timing issue. Maybe we got whatever. Matt Curl now comes to all these events too. We just got an all-star cast so that if and when it goes sideways, because it will at times, you got people in place that can fix it.
Yep, that makes sense.
So since we're talking late models, putting you on the spot here, who's your top 5 drivers over the last 10 years?
Oh, man. The last 10 years. See, 10 years makes it tough because now maybe you're trimming Moyer out of there. Maybe you're trimming Bloomquist out of there. If you're going the last 10, that makes it tough. I mean, if you go last 10 and you look on sheer success, Davenport, just because of the duration of the 10, I think you got to put Davenport up there at the top. I think if you're going 10, I mean, Owens and Shepard are right there. And then you got Pierce and Thornton because those guys have been running like their pants are on fire the past few years. The 10-year thing makes it tough. I actually really like that because people go all time. The 10-year makes it tough because you catch some guys tailing off in their careers, but then some of the guys that are really been just setting the world on fire, maybe it's only the past 5. So that makes it tough. And then, there's just a lot of talent in our sport right now. And I do like where we're at, or the things we got to work on. Yes, there always will be, but man, I like the parity. I like where we're at.
You said, as far as, are there any, you said you might have some concerns when it comes to dirt racing. Are there maybe, what are some things that in the sport that are concerning you right now?
Well, we all have cost. I mean, but that's the world in general, the cost is big, but man, I tell you what, I get, Ken, this is kind of maybe I'm getting that get off my lawn, grumpy old man. I find that a lot of times when you fix things that people ask you to fix, you fix it. And then the money you save them, they just go spend it somewhere else. So I don't know that the cost thing, I don't know how much it can be fixed. I have a very real concern, and you see it with our Castrol FloRacing Night in America schedule for this year. I went from 13 races scheduled last year to 10. Michael Rigsby and Dustin Jarrett and myself were like, we're going to try to lead by example. There's too much racing. We race 12 months a year. Some tracks open, in March, and they run till November, and they don't understand why the pits are half as full and the stands are half as full. Well, I can tell you growing up, Riverside International Speedway, they would open the first Saturday in May. They would close the second Saturday in September. That'd be the last race, right for the Mid-South Fair. If you had a wet summer, you might get like 8 races in. But you know what? When they raced, it was packed. And look, I know a lot of things have changed. I know they have, but there's a reason that college sports, are 5 months. All these pro sports are 6 months. We're a year sport. And so I feel like it's oversaturated. I can remember going to the Wild West Shootout when I first started going. We would leave there. We would be home a month before Speed Weeks started. We leave now, it's 8 days tops, and I just feel like we just keep adding. And then I feel like our sport, some of the purses and the things where they've got done, it's got a little inflated. We revised our payouts for Castrol for this year. We revised our season ender to distribute the purse. But I'm not going to name people. I know some other people that have revised their stuff over the past few years, and their car counts have actually gone down. And drivers that, beg for the purse changes to be made, go to other events on those weekends. So now it gets really hard okay, you don't want to be this way, but you start getting to a point of, what are we even trying to do? What are we trying to do? We did what you asked us to do, and then you didn't support us. So what do you I look at what just happened with Jeff Hoker and Timmy Current and those guys, and Ryan Doom up there at Makokata. Dude, what did racers beg for? Races that paid 10% of the start money, the win money to start. So he had $10,000 to win, $1,000 to start, first night, second night, $20,000 to win, $2,000 to start. He had 26 cars, man. And look, it's Iowa. There's not a lot of open cars. I get it. But you can't go and push people. You got to pay this if you're going to get us. They pay it and you don't come. That's fine. But next year when that race doesn't happen, you can't go, I can't believe this didn't happen. Well, dude, you weren't there. So that's what's hard. Like, I want to make a difference, but sometimes we're our worst enemy. And it's not just the drivers. It's the media. We do stupid stuff too. Promoters. So yeah, I wish I had an answer. I worry about overpriced. I worry about oversaturation. I worry about the average family being able to afford to come to our events. And I worry about the tracks being able to afford to open the doors. That's what I don't think a lot of folks realize. I call it the plus or minus 2,000 club. So many tracks in our sport on any given night are going to make or lose $2,000.
Yep. Yeah.
And,
I think people don't understand
that.
Yeah, the business behind it. And, I think we're in a fortunate position because we're a fairgrounds track. We're ran by a race committee, by a fair board. So we don't have a promoter that's making a bunch of money at the track. So that is one advantage that we have. But for those that have a promoter, yeah, man, it is a tough business. They don't understand.
It's tough and it's thankless. My number is anybody that knows me very well is going to know what I'm going to say next. My Castrol FloRacing Night in America number is 4.5. That's my Vegas number. If I have a night where I get my butt chewed less than 4 times or less, then it's a win. And because somebody's always mad. Somebody is, I don't care what you do. I had somebody come after me in one of my races last year, and they're like, what an amazing night of racing. You just got to feel so good, and everybody's happy. And I was like, 3. They're like, 3 was like, I've been having my butt chewed 3 times. And so that's kind of my thing in this is when things go sideways, voice your displeasure. And I don't care if you do it on social media, in person. Pick up a phone, actually. People largely don't have the guts to pick up a phone. They can say a lot of it on a keyboard, but they won't come up and say it to you on the phone. Give me that criticism. Give the promoters criticism. Give the series. But when those series and those tracks have a good night, do the same thing but opposite and compliment them and thank them. And I think that's what's scary, and you're seeing our sport dwindle a lot because a lot of people are tired of being in that plus or minus 2,000 club for what's largely thankless, And look, it's a business. You got to run your business well. You got to keep the customers coming back, but the customers got to be realistic too. I can't go to this. We have a lot of great restaurants, this little suburb of Memphis, and if the food comes out cold, I'm going to say something about it. But if we go and our bartender, our waitress is amazing. I make a point before I leave. I find the manager and I'm like, I just want to tell you, she busted her butt and we really enjoyed it. It's got to be a two-way street. It's got to be a two-way street. That's my only, it doesn't have to be. That's my request though. Think about that. If you're going to complain, every once in a while I go, good job. We had a good time. We appreciate what you're doing. Because some nights the thank you might be all that promoter or that racetrack's making.
Yeah. No, I've been on the end of that. So no, I think you're exactly right. That's a great point. Well, hey, enough of the negative stuff. On the flip side, what is it? What are the positive things about dirt racing that keeps you motivated, that keeps you waking up every day, thinking dirt racing almost 24/7?
I just complained about the people, but now I'm going to praise the people because I'm going to live by what I live by. It's the people. It's the next generation of fans. It's just getting to see families spend time together. And maybe it's selfish for me because I go back to what it meant to me. And I love seeing a family in the grandstands. And when I'm promoting events, I try to get time to go stand by the gates when people are coming in and leaving. And just thanks for coming. Thank you for being here. Same deal with the drivers. I go through the pits. Drivers will tell you at any one of my events, I try to go by and thank everybody for being there. And I don't care if you got a motorized wheelbarrow or you got a 410 sprint car. You spent your hard-earned money and your time to come race with us. And so it's the people. And I've met some amazing friends. And there's some of my most trying times in life, people that barely know me, but they're racing people. They've done things that, I remember my mom, 13 years ago today, my mom passed away, ironically. And she didn't know racing. She just didn't. And we had a so-so relationship. When she passed away, I wanted to do a visitation. She got cremated. I wanted to have a visitation where people could come. And I'll never forget this, guys. The doors opened at 5:30 that night, and it was on a Tuesday. And over 200 people from the racing community came in, and they didn't know her, but they all came up. They hugged me. They shook my hand. But what they did next is something I'll never forget. They all went and sat down. And when the visitation ended 2 and 3 hours later, whatever, the devotional, the celebration of life, I had to run them all out. They didn't leave after they came and hugged me and shook my hand. They all sat down and they were there for me. And it gets me choked up thinking about it now. And I think that was when I really realized what special world this racing world is. We fight and we're dysfunctional, but man, when you need each other, man, there's nothing like it.
Yep. Brings you back to the human level, that's for sure. Well, I'm sorry to hear that about your mother. I know you did post about that today, and so yeah, we're definitely sorry to hear about that 13 years ago. But like I said, there's definitely so many positive things that go on at the track, things to be excited about, to be happy about. But I think, Ben, we're hitting that hour mark. That's kind of the magic
Yep.
mark. I'm going to hit you, and I'll let Jacob, if he's got a question here at the end, hit a couple. But I want to hit you with some rapid fire questions. Okay.
Let's go.
All right. Bourbon or beer?
Bourbon.
Nashville or Memphis?
Nashville.
Oh, wow. Taylor Swift or Morgan Wallen?
Morgan Wallen just keeps finding ways to alienate everybody, and I'm not a Swiftie. By the way, hidden thing: Rigsby's the biggest Swiftie. Him and Ricky Thornton Jr. biggest Swifties you've ever seen. I have become I'm not a Swiftie, but I respect her entertainment value.
Yeah, you got to respect the game there. So you picked Taylor Swift there, huh?
Yep.
Dogs or cats?
My wife listening. Dogs. She's a cat person.
Steak or chicken?
Chicken.
Okay. Illinois bull rings or Southern half miles?
Oh, Illinois bull rings.
Let's freaking go. Cubs or Cardinals?
I'm not a baseball guy, and Dustin Jarrett's one of my best friends. He's a Cardinals guy. Rigsby's a Cubs guy. Gosh, I want to root against him, but can I say the White Sox and just make them both angry?
Oh.
No, you know what? We have the AAA affiliate for the Cardinals here in Memphis, the Memphis Redbirds. So I'm going to go Cardinals. I just hope Dustin Jarrett doesn't hear me brag on him.
Let's freaking go. Let's go. Signal sticks, yes or no?
Yes, and here's why. We have them with our series. I'm not going to have a rule you can't enforce, and I'm not convinced you can fully enforce it. So signal sticks, have at it, boys. If you want to look at somebody that's 100 foot off the racetrack holding sticks up while you're going 140 miles an hour, you have at it.
Yep. Okay, we're going to get a little saucy here. Rocket or Longhorn?
Well, Mark Richards is one of my biggest clients, so I got to be business smart here. I love me some Steve Arpin, but I respect Rocket Chassis and Mark Richards because their longevity, what he and Steve Baker have done. So Rocket Chassis.
And they're fighting the fight right now, right? It's kind of Longhorn dominant. So, yep.
Never put Mark Richards in a corner or he wins a World 100 in his 50th try or whatever. So go on.
All right. 4 more. Eldora or Fairbury?
Wow, so I'm either going to make Tony Stewart or Matt Curl mad. Gosh, what are you doing to me? Fairbury because what it's meant to my career.
All right, Shepherd or Pierce?
Ooh.
Yeah.
You know what? Because I love watching Bobby get up there and just ream the top of that thing, Pierce.
Yeah, they've both ripped it at Highland. They've both won at Highland.
Probably just lost a client too. I've done Brandon Shepherd's website for a while. I'm in trouble.
All right. I think these are softball. Lucas Oil or World of Outlaws?
You're gonna really come at me. I'm gonna say in both, and here's why.
All right.
Our sport needs 2 national tours to keep the sport of the sport healthy. So I'm literally, that's not even a cop out. It's both. I am adamant both tours.
Yep, and maybe you got a future as a politician too, Ben Shelton. Dirt Vision or FloRacing? Last one.
Well, I got to go Flo because, clearly Flo's been good to me. But I love Brian Dunlap and the guys. I was a Dirt Vision guy for a long time. And, with the World of Outlaws. So I love them both, but I'm going to go Dirt Vision here, Flo here.
Well, thanks for playing along on that. Jacob, did you have any other questions for Ben tonight?
Yeah, I got one. So one of my favorite things about dirt track racing, especially your big races like the PDC, is the national anthem. The one year, DJ Ashba, he was the guitar player for Guns N' Roses, did the national anthem, and now they have Rusty Fields come in, and he does an amazing job. Who is your favorite national anthem, or was there one that you think back, it's like, oh, that was amazing?
Rusty gives me just chill bumps every time. He's just such a talent. The DJ Ashba was cool because obviously big music guy, and I love his band. He was in, he's still in 6 a.m., but Guns N' Roses, and I got to hang out with him for a while that weekend. That was really cool. You guys would know. You're going to be mad at me. I'm not a hockey guy. What is the gentleman's name with Chicago Blackhawks that does the anthem? Jim.
Oh, gosh.
Either way. He did PDC maybe the year before DJ Ashba did it. And, he does the real upbeat. And it was like, I was ready to run through a brick wall when he got done. I know a lot of the old school people were like, that's not the anthem. But, dude, I was fired up after he did that.
Well, that's something maybe we'll have to step up. We play a national anthem, but we have had some singers before at like Summer Nationals. So maybe we'll step that up. Well, Ben, did you have a good time tonight?
Man, I had a great time. I appreciate you guys having me on. And yeah, man, I mean, my final thing, I do this on everything, is get out and support local racing. I love it. My local track I never get to go to anymore, and they probably don't want me to come because every time I try to come, it rains out. I was supposed to go there last night for a high limit race, and it rained out at Riverside. But support local racing because, national racing has been really good to me. But I'm telling you, when I go into these markets, I always hope like the local stock car or beginner class is running, because there's usually so much parity in that class, and they will steal the show. And you don't have to have a national tour level show to have a hell of a night of racing and a great night to spend with your family. So support local racing. And, I love what you guys are doing. I'm going to pop in there, Kurt. I'm going to be at Highland one night. I know you don't believe me, but I'm going to show up there.
No, that'll be great. We appreciate you taking the time. Well, and talk anything you'd like to give a shout out to, talk about your business, and what's the next race you're going to announce?
Yeah, I mean, just real quick, my race pass, very excited. We got an amazing staff. We're doing cool stuff. We're working with you guys for online tickets and all kinds of stuff. And obviously we do stuff with tracks and series. I just built a business for Tyler Erb's mom for her septic tank company. So we do websites for everything. I quoted one again for a stone company today. And then, we do driver sites, tracks, series, a little bit of everything. Hit us up, myracepass.com, and definitely check out our app. We got a lot of cool stuff coming down the pike. We just got in NASCAR. We do other grassroots stuff, and we're getting in drag racing hot and heavy. And dude, we just love racing. We want to give more engagement at the racetrack so that fans can, when they're looking at Darren Klein make circles at Highland, they can look in the app and click on it, see where Darren's been racing, what he looks like, stuff like that. That's really my goal moving forward, is engagement between the fan and the drivers there. So even when you do have a red flag or a rain delay, they're able to get in there and learn, not only the lineups and the results, but learn more about these drivers. It's something I'm very passionate about. And I'm just very honored to be vice president of sales, for my race pass. And then, FloRacing, Castro FloRacing Night in America, presented by Kubota. We kick things off coming up May 8th, Spoon River Speedway, Illinois Speed Week. And you can check us out at flowseries.com. And last but not least, wildwestshootout.net. If you've never been to the Wild West Shootout, we talked about Royal Jones Vado Speedway Parks in January. Here in the next week or so, we're going to announce our dates for next year. Check it out.
Ben, thanks a lot, man. Have a great night.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate you.
Yep. And I'd also like to thank my co-host on the Highland Dirt podcast, Jacob Blumenstein. Jacob, tell people where they can find you during the day.
You can find me at Jansen Chevrolet in Germantown, Illinois. And again, I can sell you anything, all par 3 lots.
Yep. And let me remind everybody, the Highland Dirt podcast is brought to you today by our friends at Jansen Auto Group. Hundreds of vehicles are available right now at gojansen.com with Jansen Ford Breeze, Jansen Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram and Carmi, and Jansen Chevrolet in Germantown, where you can find Jacob. They have just the vehicle you're looking for. You can search their entire inventory at gojansen.com. That's gojansen.com. Jansen Auto Group is proud to support local dirt track racing and world famous Highland Speedway. Let's say, guys, do you want to sponsor a race at Highland Speedway? Maybe you want to sponsor the Highland Dirt podcast. Email us at highlanddirtpodcast@gmail.com, and we will get you all of the details. Well, guys, you know what that music means. Make sure you follow the Highland podcast on Facebook, YouTube, X, and TikTok. And next up at world famous Highland Speedway are super late models this Saturday, April 13th. You can also download this episode where you find all your favorite podcasts, Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts. Make sure you leave us a 5-star review. And I'm Kurt Vonder, Haar, your host of the Highland Dirt Podcast. And remember, folks, whether it's Peevely, Brownstown, Tri-City, Belclaire, Highland, West Memphis, or your home track, get out there and support your local dirt track, would you? See you guys next week.